At least 16 files related to convicted sex offender Jeffrey Epstein have disappeared from the Justice Department's public webpage, including a photograph showing U.S. President Donald Trump. Now, this comes less than a day after they were posted, with no explanation from the Trump administration and no notice to the public. The U.S. Justice Department released thousands of records tied to Epstein's sex trafficking investigation Friday, and Deputy Attorney General Todd Blanche says several 100,000 more will be released in the coming weeks.
It's absolutely critical that Donald Trump, as president of the United States, make sure that the Justice Department do its job now and release all of the files.
Now, the release includes photographs, call logs, grand jury testimony and other documents. Among the photographs, former President Bill Clinton in a hot tub, the late Michael Jackson and Diana Ross, and rocker Mick Jagger with Epstein's girlfriend Ghislaine Maxwell. Now, President Donald Trump's name appeared in a contact book, but it's not clear whose book it is. The Justice Department discovered more than 1,200 victims and their families in a review of the documents. Let's now invite Judge Stephen Haberfeld, former U.S. judge and federal prosecutor. Sir, good evening and thank you for your time here on CTV News Channel. Appreciate it.
Thank you for having me, Akshay.
Can I get your first reaction on what we are just learning about those 16 files that have disappeared from the website that included pictures of President Trump?
As a former Watergate prosecutor, this new news to me sounds very much like what happened when we learned of what was called the 18-and-a-half-minute gap in the White House tapes, which it was explained at the time, and whether that was really true or not, President Nixon's secretary, Rose Woods, supposedly accidentally erased, so that we now have 18-and-a-half minutes of missing tape back then, and we now have 16 minutes of missing files that were there and are not there now. This is very much like it, and I think it's going to add fuel to an existing fire that already exists about what appears to be hardly a full production of publicly available, easily searchable documents of everything in the files.
In what you're explaining to us, the example you're giving, it's almost like history repeating itself. But let me ask you about any consequences here. First, about files released that have been removed or they have disappeared, we don't know. But the fact that all of those files that the Justice Department was supposed to release on Friday has not happened. And this was required by the law that was signed by President Trump himself. So should there be any consequences for the Justice Department?
I believe that there should be, and we'll see whether there will be. My belief is that as a result of the very partial production that was already broadcast by the Deputy Attorney General Todd Blanche yesterday, who I think it's important to note was President Trump's principal criminal attorney in connection with the 34 felony convictions and the indictments in connection with January 6th and the Mar-a-Lago documents. He was the one who went down to the prison to speak with Ghislaine Maxwell with the apparent purpose of clearing President Trump. He said yesterday that there would only be partial production, and I believe that that is not what is required, and that I believe Congress will go to court to compel and to sanction the Justice Department and various officials for not complying with the law that was passed unanimously by the United States Senate and with only one vote in the House and reluctantly signed by President Trump, that everything was to be produced yesterday.
That's correct. So the redactions, meantime, we know that this is a partial release, and what has been released has also seen a lot of redactions. In some cases, things have disappeared as we speak right now. What role do you think these redactions are going to play in terms of making these documents and the release useful or useless?
I believe that they have been, for the moment, rendered not usable at all, and I don't believe that Congress is going to sit still for that. And I believe that by going to court, and this is just speculation on my part as to what might happen, they are going to ask for the appointment of a special master to go through in private. It's called in-camera inspection. I believe it's going to be with a retired judge, if I am correct. And if I may go out on a limb, I believe that an excellent candidate for that position might be retired United States Supreme Court Justice Anthony Kennedy, a Republican who recently retired from the court.
Right.
I believe he would be an excellent person to go through and to compare the unmasked documents which should have been produced against what has been masked, and to make decisions and to make recommendations to the district court for production. And I believe that the recent addition yesterday,
Right.
which is not permitted by the statute of so-called privileges, which may be interposed by the Justice Department, will be decided by the court and by the special master, and that they will fall away, and that the only exceptions should be the exceptions that are in the statute, which are the protection of the identity of the victims, national security, and pending investigations, which I think are very, very few and very recent, because I believe that it is well reported in public that the FBI director and the Attorney General announced that there was nothing to disclose because the files didn't exist, but there was nothing to investigate. So what there would be in the way of pending investigations should be viewed very skeptically.
Okay, so we really appreciate you joining us today and spelling it all out and what should happen next. Judge Stephen Haberfeld, former U.S. judge and federal prosecutor, appreciate your time and expertise, sir. Thanks so much.
You're welcome.